All right, so we're going to look at classical East, and what we have is ancient India and then ancient China. So in the centuries when Persia, Greece, and Rome dominated the West, a different series of empires and dynasties flourished in the East. India witnessed the flowering of Hindu and Buddhist cultures, influencing all of South and Southeast Asia. China saw the emergence of great philosophers who set the tone for much of the Chinese thought and tradition. So looking at ancient India first, the big three questions that you'll have questions on your exam at the end. What were the major accomplishments of the civilizations of India and China during the classical era? How did these civilizations compare to the civilizations in the West? Going to compare them to Rome pretty much. And what factors contributed to the rise and fall of empires and dynasties in the East? So what caused them to collapse? Here's the chapter terms, which you'll have the Quizlet. All right, so we'll start off with the Aryans, okay, or Aryans, and the Aryan Invasion, which really pretty much starts the empires in India. So there again was an early river valley civilization that was along the Indus River. We talked about Harappa and places like that suddenly collapsed. The Aryans conquered the Dravidians, who were already there in India and were in this region already, and the Aryans actually pushed them to the south. So some historians believe the Aryans came from Central Area, or the Aryans. Other people believe that they developed locally. So Aryan characteristics. They were nomadic, and they lived by herding cattle and by fighting. They had iron weapons, so they were able to melt metals. They also had horse-drawn chariots, which enabled them to conquer their neighbors, so that was their advanced weaponry. They moved into the Ganges River Valley, and in 900 BC, they formed the city-states in most of the major river valleys. So each city was ruled by its own ruler, that's why it's a city-state, and they developed their own form of writing, which is known as Sanskrit. And Sanskrit was taught to the members of the higher castes, in other words, the people in the upper classes. And they're the ones, the big thing is they started Hinduism. And here's some pictures of the Dravidians, and Dravidians were again the local group that was already there, and they were forced down to the south by the Aryans. So here's some pictures of Sanskrit. I think this is done on palm. There's the different letters in Sanskrit. All right, so Hinduism. Hinduism served as a guide explaining everything a person should do from birth to death. So it was a complete guide. Hinduism had no single holy book, so there's no Bible like what the Christian religion would have. It has two texts containing the major beliefs of the Hindus, which were the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. Hopefully I pronounced that close. And the Hindu beliefs were very different from Christian beliefs in a lot of different ways, and similar also. So gods, Hindus believe that there are many gods and goddesses. Each of these gods, however, came from this manifestation of this supreme being, and most people believe that is Brahman. In a reincarnation, Hindus believe that at death the person's soul is reborn into another living thing, so this creates an endless cycle of rebirth for the soul, just a continuous cycle. Remember that when we get to Buddhism. And karma refers to a person's behavior in life, which Hindus believe determines a person's form in the next life. People who live a good life are reborn in a higher caste, so an upper level, and those who do not move down to a lower caste. So you want to build up as much good karma as you can. And then sacred objects, of course, they believed that the Ganges River was sacred and held the power to wash away sins and evil. They also believed that the cow is considered sacred, and they did not eat beef for that reason. So there's a symbol for Hinduism. Here's some different gods and goddesses. And the swastika was originally a Hindu symbol, Buddhist symbol, even an Indian, Native American Indian symbol. And here's some pictures of the Ganges River, which is the Holy River. It's all the way up here in the north, so away from the Indus River Valley that we've been talking about. This is what it looks like. This would be during a big ceremonial time. And then the sad thing about it is how polluted it is. So this is a picture of the Ganges River, kind of away from where all the ceremonies go on. Here's the endless cycle of rebirth. So you see the infinity. So your soul just continues to go on to this path of birth, death, and rebirth. This is where the Aryans came through, a Khyber Pass, and this is kind of what it looks like. So it's an easier area to get through because the Himalayas, of course, are extremely tough to travel through. But you have this Khyber Pass that they're able to come down across the Indus River and then eventually get over to the Ganges River. So the caste system. So the mixing of Aryan and Dravidian people led to a new social order. To secure their status, what the Aryans did was benefited them, is they actually put in all these social and then religious rules. These rules allowed the Aryans to occupy the higher areas, the higher castes, in which the priests and the warriors and the landowners were. So caste lines were based on birth. Under the caste system, people lacked all social mobility. So no matter how good you were, how smart you were, you're not going to move up, unless you built up that good karma. So the ability to change class, you didn't have that ability to do it at all. So people were not permitted to marry outside their caste. And what you had at the bottom were the untouchables. Untouchables did all the lowest tasks that a Hindu would see as something they just wouldn't do. So they would handle the dead bodies, they would sweep the streets, and they were completely outcast. That's why they're outside the caste system. That's where the word outcast comes from. So here's the different classes. Okay, so you have the priests and the teachers, which is going to be the top, which is the Brahmin class. Then you have the warriors and the rulers. Then you have the farmers, traders, merchants. Then you had the laborers, and then you had the outcasts, which would be completely outside the system. And this is a good picture of really kind of the way they are featured.